This week on the VC React podcast, $53 million into a ballot game. MENA just closed the biggest gaming round in MENA. Is this the beginning of Marvel-style IP coming out of the region? Is Impact 46 sending a bold message to global investors? We're building the champions before you show up. Although Airbnb, Booking, and Expedia are already here, Gather-In raises a $72 million Series B. How are they still winning? And is Saudi Arabia's domestic tourism finally big enough to carry a regional startup all the way to IPO? Holo is digitizing the entire mortgage experience. But at the end of the day, it's still an aggregator. In 2025, is aggregation still a good business model, or is it just a hook? And the real value is in owning the full financial stack in PropTech. And finally, Saudi enters the foundation model race. With the launch of Allam and HumainChat, what's the actual edge against OpenAI? Hi, everyone, and welcome to a new episode of the VC React podcast. Every week, we bring you insights and reactions from top VCs, LPs, and angel investors reacting to the latest news on startups, funds, and investment rounds. Let's jump into it with our guests for today. Ahmed AlThukair, an active angel investor with more than 30 investments and 5 exits. Shaaban, Opportunity Committee member at OQAL Angel Network. And my co-host Jamie Lane from FWDstart. In the video description, you can find more details on our guests, their LinkedIn profiles, and links to their companies' websites. This episode is brought to you by OCTA, the AI-powered finance automation platform built for modern businesses. Managing receivables is not one task. It's dozens of repetitive ones. Correcting invoice details, updating PO numbers, following up on payment status. It's operationally critical, but painfully manual.
OCTA changes that. It helps you automate your financial operations, starting with accounts receivable, so you can focus on what you're actually good at, growing your business. From contract to cash, OCTA's AI agents handle everything: invoice creation, reminders, dispute resolution, payment tracking, reconciliation, even financing. You don't need to learn how to use OCTA. OCTA learns how you work. It adapts to your SOPs and existing workflows to get the job done. Finance teams at Careem, Lean Technologies, and Allam rely on OCTA to reduce admin time, speed up collections, and unlock flow.
If you've heard of them before, you know that they used to say 100 companies use OCTA. The number is now 500. They are moving fast. And that kind of growth only happens because the problem is real and the solution actually works. Automate the finance work that slows you down. See how at weareocta.com. Our weekly news are brought to you by FWDstart, a twice-weekly newsletter that breaks down what's happening in the MENA startup, VC, and tech space. Hi, everyone. Are you guys attending the Money 2020 event and Riyadh? Of course, you are. Okay, nice. Jamie and I will be recording live on stage at Money 2020 Middle East. This will be a first for us.
Amazing.
We will be in a glass cage on stage, and people would have headsets, and they will listen to the panel conversation or panel discussion live. If you're a VC or an angel investor already speaking at the event or attending and want to join us on a special episode on stage, please let me know. We might have 2 episodes on stage, but for now we have only 1 confirmed. Also, if you still didn't get your ticket, use the link in the description to register and get a 25% discount. Okay, Jamie, last week we talked about gaming a lot and Impact 46. It seems they're not done with their announcements. What's happening this week with them?
Yeah, they're still not done with their announcements. I think this could be the last week. I think they're surely running out of announcements at this juncture.
New announcements?
I think so. I'd like to think so. This certainly takes the biscuit as far as deal size is concerned, at the very least. So as you teed up at the beginning there, Ahmed, they have roughly $53 million, about 200 million Saudi Riyal into Kamelna, a Dammam-based studio behind Balut, which I have to concede I'm not overly familiar with as an expat to the region. Anyone willing to explain who's familiar with Balut, exactly what it entails?
We'll leave the time to show you. I mean, I'm pretty sure impact investment will have a huge impact on the growth. So I'm pretty sure you'll have it downloaded in less than a year.
I look forward to it.
We have an equivalent game to it in Jordan. We call it tarnib. It's very similar, but it's really hard to explain now, Jamie. I don't
Fair
know.
enough. Fair enough. We
Yeah.
defer until another date. But in any case, I'm in the minority, it would seem, as far as not being familiar with the game. Their games have been downloaded 6 million plus times monthly, about 1 million users. And tournaments apparently can draw up to 150,000 players, which is frankly insane. Employs about 40 plus engineers and artists as well. So it's actually the largest independent game developer in Saudi as well. Something, I guess, a thread that we have sort of pursued and we covered last week as well, Ahmed, is this sort of push for culturally rooted content as well. And I think this is sort of another case in point as far as this is concerned. I'm not 100% on the actual terms of the deal itself and what it sort of encompasses and entails. I reached out to Impact 46 to see if I could get some clarity on this. I haven't heard back from them yet because it's been reported in some outlets that it's an investment, in other places it's an acquisition. So I'm not entirely sure of what sort of percentage is involved in this or that they've gotten for this $53 million stake. But in any case, it's a statement. I think that we can say that at the very least. It's a pretty big statement.
It is, and it's huge. But let me start with this. This is not experimental capital anymore. This is a sign that we're about to see real IP growing to become something big in the MENA region. But here's the question: can such regional or local IP be treated like Marvel, Pokemon, or FIFA in the short term? What do you think?
Yeah, I think it's an interesting question because how big is the fan base for these users? I mean, they started with their flagship game, which is Balot, and hopefully we'll teach Jamie how to play it. But the question is, can they expand this footprint to other games in the regions or similar games like you mentioned, Tarnib, in other regions? So it's interesting to see how this plays out. As an angel investor, I think it's very pleasing to see such innovation come at this stage. And this is the dream company that we would like to back.
This deal is a landmark deal, to be honest. I mean, as you mentioned, Ahmed, it's not just a part of a portfolio, it's a strategic anchor now in the investment world in terms of gaming. In my perspective, I think Saudi is exporting culture through code. We've seen K-pop, anime, Pokemon, as Samer mentioned, growing within our regions through the soft export of that culture. Now, given the depth of MENA and the diversification in terms of Balot and Jacaro, I'm pretty sure by time we'll see it more expanding to other regions of the world and kind of softly embedding that Saudi culture in.
This is a $53 million round. It's a massive round. What kind of returns or return expectations does a local IP play like this need to hit to justify that? Is the bet here on monetization or building a full stack entertainment IP or maybe merchandise later on, or extends to publishing, events, media? What do you think? What's the bet here from Impact 46?
In my perspective, I think Impact for the past couple of months has been actually investing heavily in the gaming industry. And I think this is one of their corner investments when it comes to their portfolio construction. Seeing value from that, I think they're going to play the long-term game where they're going to invest more and more in the gaming space, consolidate it more, making it more of a platform approach rather than single games and pushing them abroad.
Yeah, I agree with Ahmed. I mean, they have significant moat in terms of users, active users, and downloads. And the expectation is to have other gaming rollout in their platform and build from that.
Yeah, they started already selling playing cards with Camilla branding. I saw that on their website. And in the news, they have one more game. But that's it for now. I don't see the studio. Like on the website, I just see the game and the playing cards. And even the second game is not mentioned on the studio, but it was mentioned on the news. So maybe it has another app. But how can Camilla, as a gaming studio now, not just a single game, promote themselves or communicate what they're trying to do now, especially after this round?
I think in my personal perspective that this gaming studio actually was more of a validation of the Saudi market growth in terms of gaming. And this is just the start. So Balot and Jacaro are a cornerstone cultural experience in the region. And its validation shows more and more that Kamilna Gaming Studio will be definitely embedding the cultural aspect in terms of pushing new games to the market. So I think it's more of a hybrid approach between choosing the right cultural games to grow the user or fan base in the early adaptive and early innovators, and then definitely, I mean, grow more and more in terms of pushing more games that are related.
Yeah, I think with the government tailwind of Vision 2030, the gaming vertical, I think that will push the industry, as you talked about in the previous podcast, forward. And what's interesting is, from my observation, they only have 40 plus employees. If they're going to expand, can they retain or get more talent to build the bigger studios to roll out the games?
I just learned that you both served as board members on a gaming company previously. Well, as experts in games, what advice do you have for gaming entrepreneurs who are starting today? What do you think they should focus on? Where do you think they should go for funding? How to go through that journey?
First of all, we're not past board members. We're currently board members in Tahaddi Gaming. So Tamer is an amazing colleague, to be honest. Just to kind of give an advice to founders in the MENA region, and especially in Saudi and wider GCC, is that given the governmental support, given the youth generations that we're having, I think for founders, they need to focus on gaps that are in the market today. We're a growing market and we need to focus on niches that we can fill and definitely export abroad, but definitely focus on local. And you will hear this from me a lot going on this podcast on the various topics we're going to talk about. But start local, think global, and then, I mean, the sky is the limit, as they say.
Do you have any specific examples for local stories? What do you mean when you say local? Give us specific examples.
So in terms of localization, I think a founder should dominate the market, similar to Kamilna. Kamilna did not take a global approach. It focused locally. It spent nearly a decade in the current market to obtain those numbers of 6 million downloads, 1 million of active users, and it built a loyal fan base. Now, if you ask anyone, what would you do? I mean, if you have 20 minutes or 10 minutes in your time and you have Kamilna, believe me, those guys were going to play Belot rather than going through TikTok or reading something. It's a fun game for 10 minutes. That's what I mean, is that it's more of a cultural thing, and then it's going to be exported in a global approach.
Yeah, I agree with Ahmad. Culture plays a big role, and I think that's part of the stickiness of the fan base that they have. Another observation is the stakeholders. Anybody starting in this gaming industry, they need to be very aware who are the stakeholders if they want to make certain collaboration with certain providers. As the industry is evolving, as we've seen in the last 1 month, there will be some dominant players, and new game entries into this market needs to be very aware of the culture aspects and having various stakeholders within the.
Do you mind me adding something, Ahmed? Do you think
Please.
Impact 46 approach is more of a roll-up approach? So they've acquired, or so they invested a large amount of money in the gaming industry. They invested in specific gaming studios and specific games as well. Do you think it's more of a roll-up where they have a full umbrella or creative fund that they're gonna, I mean, do a secondary on or name it? But there is definitely an investment approach or investment opportunity doing those investments in such a consolidated period of time.
Yeah, last week we were talking about why everything is concentrated within those 2 weeks, but we realized it's because of the events, so it's all seasonal. But yeah, they have a fund dedicated for games, and the other big player here is Mirak with their gaming accelerator, Excel. What do you think, Samer?
Yeah, I think part of it is the event that happened. And from my observation with other platforms and other approaches globally, there should be more communication, more sector specialists, expertise, because these portfolio companies that they acquired, they need support. And I think Impact should be gearing up to ramp up the hand-holding through their growth journey. And I think would be crucial what kind of support they'll be giving and what communication they'll be giving to the community as far as that support.
Awesome. Okay, Jamie, move us to PropTech. Now we have two news. Let's start with the first one. What's happening with Gathering?
Yeah, let's start there. And once again, another Series B funding round, which is obviously fantastic to see, and a very sizable one, if we do say so as well. So $72 million for Gathering, Series B, led by Sanable. We also saw participation from STV, Pinnacle, New Endeavor Catalyst as well. They were recently joined there. I think it was earlier this year. So they wasted no time in getting in on the act as well. They also disclosed the valuation, which is pretty cool and still pretty uncommon as far as sort of regional norms are concerned. So $266 million US dollars. Some background and context on the company, if you're unaware, founded back in 2017. So it's been around a while by Latifa Al-Tamimi. It's officially licensed by the Saudi Tourism Ministry, the country's first P2P rental platform as well, has over 72,000 properties. So think villas, apartments, desert camps, etc. And claims to have about a 44% market share as well in alternative lodgings. I think 53% in Riyadh, 5 million registered users, 33,000 hosts. So it's significant, very, very significant. So you can think of it as the Saudi Airbnb, I suppose, to a certain extent. But I think it certainly seems to be positioned to ride, I suppose, the crest of the wave that tourism is experiencing, I think, within the kingdom, and which the government, very manifestly seem to be pushing moving forward as well. But to your point in the intro, is it interesting, Ahmed, in that, there still is staunch competition. Like you do have Expedia, you do have Booking.com. So it'd be interesting to see how it all plays out. But yeah, as Ahmed said, localization is very much the theme of this particular podcast episode, I think.
It's the playbook of Saudi, I think. Localization is,
Yeah.
I mean, we have Holo as well, which is also a part of localization coming to Saudi. But I mean, first of all, congratulations to the two female-led founders, which is something amazing to see female founders leading this round of 72 million. I think it's not only a short-term log, maybe it's more of a backbone of the tech enablement of tourism in Saudi Arabia. As you mentioned, Jamie, it's the first licensed and from the Ministry of Tourism. And I think they have positioned themselves as the local player, knowing the needs of the market, knowing the needs of the people and the hosts as well. So it's more of a local approach and rather than a global play. And I think definitely they are going to dominate the market. Just two things, Jamie. You mentioned 72 million. Maybe 9 months ago when you first hosted me in January, we mentioned the later stage rounds coming up to MENA, and we're seeing that today after 9 months. And we're also seeing more and more of short-term rentals coming to Riyadh and Saudi Arabia. I believe we had the news last time and 9 months ago about a short rental PropTech company coming to Riyadh as well. They were just raising the, I think, $2 million round. I believe the market can absorb as much as possible, but definitely down the line, as I said earlier, it's going to be consolidated to major players.
Samir, what do you think of what's happening with Gathering, and why are they winning compared to Airbnb, Expedia, Booking? They're all here, but none of them was able to dominate the market. And according to the numbers we're seeing here, Gathering has 44% of the market. What did they do to win?
Yeah, I think part of their recipe is their positioning. They're targeting themselves as the Saudi offering of the Saudi life, and like we said earlier, the Saudi theme and culture. And I'm very excited it's led by a female founder. And also, like we said, this company has a moat by being the first company licensed by the tourism authority. But I think being in Saudi, they'll be able to offer alternative lodging for not only tourists, for Saudis. And having background in the real estate sector, I think this is very positive for the industry in general to offer short-term rentals, rather for not only for apartments, for villas, and for other type of rental that can offer in the marketplace.
So you both mentioned the localization, and they're aligning themselves with the local regulations, and they're the first one to be licensed. And it seems they are really building for local tourism, not just for international tourism inside Saudi Arabia, because they've got supply in 180 cities and towns. Clearly, they're not just building for Riyadh or Jeddah. It's deep into Saudi Arabia. But the question now is, Can the Saudis' domestic travel market be big enough for them to, scale fast and eventually go to IPO? Is that a big market?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think the initiative is to graduate them to a national champion where they could move to other regions. And I think if they have the right locality formula, they be able to not only operate in Saudi and operate in other regions. And part of it is for them to reach in their announcement a potential IPO in the midterm. And I think this is very positive news.
Ahmed, what do you think? Is the market big enough
Of
for them
course, I
locally in
would
Saudi?
definitely support what Samer said. And if you want to reframe it by saying it's the Saudi Riyal unicorn, so it's a unicorn and it's a unicorn, but in the Saudi currency. So I mean, it shows the dedication and focus on 2030 vision goals. One of them is tourism and increasing of tourism as well. So I think giving gaming, tourism, and we're moving forward to Olo as well, that shows a lot of conviction in terms of the goals and achieving those in that sense.
Mentioning the unicorns, a few weeks ago we had the Qatari Riyal unicorn, Snunu, that was acquired by Jazz in Saudi. But yeah, it's another way to look at these valuations. So let me end this with a question about the female founders. It's amazing to see Saudi women raise one of the largest B rounds in MENA. But is this the exception, or are we turning the corner in how VCs view female founders and MENA in general?
I think female-led startups comparison to men is way much lower from a global perspective. But I think in our region, MENA and the wider MENA region, we're focusing on developing more female founders. The opportunities are more. The support from whether it's VCs, governmental bodies and entities is way much more. And I am pretty sure that we're going to see more and more of female-led amazing startups in the near future, coming to unicorn status, inshallah, from a dollar perspective and a local currency perspective.
So, Ahmed, let me stay with you. As a very active angel investors, what percentage do you see today of female-led startups presenting to you?
Wallahi, it's less than 5%, to be honest. And I'm very sad about that. I think there is a lot to be done in that sense. But I'm also seeing a lot of female pioneers taking that on them to educate and create those female-led investment clubs or educational seminars to give them more and more of a boost and impact in that sense.
Yeah, I mean, from my observation as an angel investor and through OQAL network, I've seen more and more angel entrepreneurs, not necessarily as the lead for the startup, probably the second or the third person. But overall, we're seeing an increase given where the shift in the demographic is happening. And I'm very positive as we move through this transformation process, we'll see more female step up to the stage and lead significant round as we've seen here.
What's missing? Why do we see a lot less from female founders? Is there something in the market we're doing that we should maybe consider changing? Is it a culture? What's happening?
I think it's a global aspect. If it's not only regional, I mean, this is the global issue that we're facing all over the globe. So it's from developed markets to emerging markets to underdeveloped markets. I think there should be a whole initiative in terms of VCs globally to back female founders more and more in that sense.
Okay. In the US, we used to always talk about, hey, the VC industry is dominated by white dudes who invest in other white dudes. But here we're seeing more and more female VCs in the MENA region. And maybe this is one of the things that we should focus more on. If the funder is female, maybe it's more likely to fund other females-led startups. I don't know.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I mean, if you look at the statistics, the majority of the spending power is within females. And historically, and research shows female-led founders understand their market segment more than men. So I think it's very important for that segment to flourish. And I think you'll see more meaningful and higher impact investments if females would lead the startup through this growth stage.
Okay. Jamie, move us to the next PropTech company. That's a Fintech / PropTech
Yeah,
play, right?
exactly. which seems fitting. I think those are the two industries this year, especially, we've probably concentrated on more than any other, with the exception of AI. Obviously, we've discussed that.
Oh yeah, they're missing the AI.
They are.
And
They
then
are.
that would be the perfect.
I actually didn't see any reference to AI in the press release as well, which is refreshing in one sense. But in any case, yeah, Holo. So let's talk mortgages. They've raised a $22 million Series A, again, which is rather large, UAE based, founded back in 2020, digital mortgage marketplace. So you can compare your loans, refinance options online. I think we're all relatively familiar sort of with the business model or how it works in practice. Once again, Impact 46 to the fore on this one. They've spearheaded this particular.
But they're very active.
They're extremely
very
active.
MashaAllah, they
Every
had
week
a
we
really
have
amazing
something about-
fundraising year, يعني, for them to have all
Oh
this
my
dry
gosh.
powder.
Yeah.
It's extraordinary.
We had team members from Impact 46 earlier. We'll have them again soon, inshallah.
We need to. We'd Saud, didn't we, a while ago? That was back.
Yeah, Saud.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We need to get them back on. It helps. It helps when
Yeah.
you have companies that go public. These things.
So if you're listening, we want you back and more partners from Impact 46 on the show, please.
Yes, please tell us your secrets. And we also saw Mubadala
Yeah.
as well participate as well, which I thought was particularly noteworthy in this one. So it's going to fuel the entry into Saudi. I follow both founders on LinkedIn. I know that's something they've been ramping up over the course of the last couple of months. Look, the Saudi residential real estate market is colossal. Look, they provide some insight into this as well. So to put some figures on it, it's estimated about 203 billion this year, expected to reach up to 310 billion. So there's an enormous demand there that they're hoping to tap into.
It's huge. Yeah, I totally agree. But for Holo, they've built a full digital mortgage journey. Pre-qualification, product matching, offer selection, closing, and even post-sale management. But at the end of the day, this is still an aggregator model, right? So what's the real moat here? Is it the integrations, data, or just being first to earn trust from banks and regulators? And more broadly, why aggregators are still a good business in 2025?
AMB Seed Fund was also a participant in that round. And I think given a Saudi bank coming in with their VC fund to invest with a mortgage company or a fintech company, moving to Saudi is a huge move. I think AMB, from a conglomerate bank perspective, wants to have a piece of the cake in the digitalization of mortgages. In my perspective, and from a global perspective, I think digitizing mortgages is one of the hardest, more complex approaches to do. And I'm pretty sure Holo isn't only taking the approach from a aggregator. It might want to have the first mover advantage. And I would really want to see how they read the Saudi playbook in terms of, again, localization. And this is very important. They might start as an aggregator, having the first mover's advantage, and down the line, they might develop into new product lines, given their backing from AMB as a bank, where they have all the license available for them to give to that subsidiary. So that's how I would view it.
But having a bank investing in them, while they are basically an aggregator of all bank offers, would this create any conflict of interest for other banks?
That's an interesting question, to be honest. It depends on the level of involvement of AMB seated fund. And I think they definitely have a Chinese wall from a regulatory perspective and fiduciary duty towards either their shareholders or people actually onboarding on the platform from a service provider.
Okay, fair enough. Simon, what do you think about their business model and the aggregation that they're doing?
Yeah, I mean, I think the key challenge for this market segment is simplifying the process for homeowners. As you're aware, it's a lengthy process from identifying, securing financing, and closing the deal. And I think first entry to the market will give them an advantage. But it will be interesting who else comes to this market and probably utilizes their existing learning, or if they could succeed by capitalizing the market share in this market. One of the core part of this strategy is tackling, like Jamie said, the Vision 2030 home ownership, which the government is backing very significantly with intention to get more Saudi owners owning houses. And I know from my experience as a developer and selling residential, part of the challenge is once somebody identify a house is getting a loan, and that process can be lengthy, and there is no transparency in terms of going to various banks and getting financing. But like we said earlier, the key challenge is the integration from various lenders into a process that it simplifies for the consumer the journey of selecting the best option.
Samer, let me stay with you. You mentioned the government support and the government programs, and the next big move for Holo, there is all this money to move into Saudi. But mortgage penetration is still low compared to other countries, and much of the housing demand is tied to government-backed developments and programs, right? So, what's the play here for them? Is it going to be B2C, or are they going to maybe become B2G, cooperate with government programs to offer these loans to the end users? And are they maybe embedding into Saudi's national housing and developer stack as well?
Yeah, it's very interesting. I haven't thought of that, but I think it would make more sense for the National Housing Ministry to put them as one of the providers for services. And they're promoting heavily the sector and the ecosystem and the RegTech part of the system. And part of their play could be doing joint venture with developer who wanted to offload these units quicker to consumers. And the third, like you said, will be directly dealing with consumers.
I back what Samer said, and he's the expert in real estate. I just want to add one thing. As I said earlier, I think they should rely heavily on local players for them to actually develop. And so you're raising 22 million. You have plans to enter a new market, and I think it's a swifty dance between to go to market and capture that, as well as succeeding in the right playbook in the Saudi market. So I'm very interested to see how it will pan out eventually for them.
And we've seen in the MENA region funds focused on SaaS, funds focused on Fintech specifically, funds focused on AI, and now PropTech or the real estate market is becoming one of those top, hot, sexy markets in the MENA region. Do you think we will see dedicated funds for this industry?
There might be, definitely. Maybe not a $100 million fund, but definitely I would say by next year we will see a dedicated prop fund. Maybe by 2030 or 2035 we'll have major anchoring funds that invest in PropTech as one of the leading sectors in the market.
Do you think the amount of the deal flow, the size of the companies will justify, dedicated funds for PropTech here?
Today, from an observer perspective, I think a lot of PropTech startups are playing within the same sub-sector or sub-vertical, and they're focusing on it. More time will give founders a broader perspective in terms of ideas and targeting points. And we're going to see a huge growth in terms of PropTech companies coming into market. So I'm betting on that.
Okay, Samer? You're the real estate guy.
Yeah, I think we will see funds not only targeting one sector, probably targeting various vertical. So it would specialize in their approach, part of their strategy to the PropTech. And the PropTech is very broad approach, very loose term. So companies can focus on the giving services, companies can be focusing on giving the valuation, company can be focusing on the mortgage aspects of it or the development part of it. The industry is huge, and I know the government is supporting the industry by providing support for these startups. But I think it's too early to see a dedicated fund, but we could see a fund that will have a separate sleeve within their fund to focus on the PropTech.
And there's also insurance, home insurance, and fractional ownership, for example, for real estate, whether it's apartment buildings, villas, and even land, maybe. So yeah, I think the sky's the limit for what founders can do in this industry. So, Jamie, when we first heard about how China created a new foundation model, I think that was last year, right? We covered that news here.
Yep.
And we said it was cheaper for them to launch. And now we have something in the MENA region. Saudi just launched their foundation model. Tell us more about that.
Yes, they have indeed. First things first, Ahmed or Samar, have either of you used it yet? Because I know it's not available outside of Saudi.
Yeah.
Not yet. I'm planning to use it today, actually, to kind of take it on a test run.
Okay.
Yeah, I've used it yesterday. It's impressive for a first-time user. I have it here.
Hey, but yeah, so to maybe expand a small bit on the model itself. So it's Allam 34B is the technical name. It's being used to power HumainChat. So look, it's trained on one of the largest proprietary Arabic data sets ever. I think it's benchmarked by Cohere as near parity with global models, can switch between Arabic dialects and English as well, whilst adhering to Saudi's data laws as well. I found it interesting as well, actually, slightly separately, but Semaphore had an interesting article that they published yesterday on the infrastructure side of things for Humane as well, and the data centers which they have under construction. And reportedly, all of that capacity is already sold out for all of their data centers, those which are existing, those which are under construction. I believe 99% of its AI customers today are actually outside of Saudi Arabia, which is very, very interesting indeed. And reportedly, there's plans as well. They're looking to raise outside capital for the sort of venture arm that we heard was announced earlier this year as well, the 10 billion AI venture arm to back startups that maybe will plug subsequently into their ecosystem too. So yes, we finally have, I suppose, our DeepSeek to a certain extent within the region, which is pretty exciting.
Funny thing, last time I was here, we spoke about DeepSeek, by the way. So I'm not sure every time you host me, there is a huge break in the AI world. So you either need to host me on a weekly basis, so we have breakthroughs all over the.
We can definitely have you every week.
Just to have a bold statement here, I think Arabic language speakers are the first time the core of an AI-driven company, and not just a regular user within that environment. I think that gives conviction on how the region is focusing on advancing itself in terms of artificial intelligence, in terms of expanding globally. As you said, I mean, today we're only focusing on Saudi, and then I see it moving to a global perspective. As Jamie said, it's more of 99% of their customers are global today. And we can see that Humane not only was able to penetrate the local market quickly, but also the global market. That shows conviction in what Saudi is building in terms of being a leader in artificial intelligence.
Yeah, it will be interesting to see who would be their first users. My expectations would be more enterprise and government due to the sensitivity of data. One of their key advantages is their Arabic language that understand the dialects, the tradition, the values. And when I went and put in the news for today, it went to Arabic sources news to get the news instead of getting it from Western and converting it to Arabic. And I think part of it will be getting an Islamic tradition, Islamic culture into this AI language. But I think it will be a huge competitive advantage for the whole economy in general, and there will be spillover from various industries from this AI language.
And I know it's not just the model, it's the apps, the compute, the policy, the distribution, the localization, commercialization. It's all of that together. And it seems that HumainChat has a big chunk of that already.
As I said earlier, I mean, it's the first time that Arabic speakers aren't users of AI, but they're the core feature. So they're the core focus. We have 34 billion parameters, more than 120 AI specialists working on an Arab native AI that speaks the dialect, the language, the culture, and all of that. It's going to take a long time for OpenAI to mimic the depth of HumainChat. And I believe that Allam is positioned in a very unique value proposition, targeting the 400 million Arab speakers community in the MENA wider region. So that's the advantage.
Ahmed, last time when we talked about DeepSeek, we all got hope that anyone can build an LLM, a large language model, with a small budget. Because at the time, the news was they built it with only $10 million. But then it became even more and more expensive. And we know Humane is hugely funded. So it's not just a $10 million play. So now the hope is gone again. LLMs are very expensive to build. G42 also in the UAE, they're also building their own model and it's hugely funded as well. What do you think now? Is it easy to build an LLM or it's back to where it all started? It's very expensive and time consuming and
So I think by time the cost is gonna drop rapidly, given more focused LLMs in the region. This is number one. Number two, we've seen a lot of startups build LLMs as a service specifically towards a certain niche in the market or a certain service in the market. So those are interesting to see how they develop and how they focus on an industry rather than being broader. I think it's more of a national approach when we talk about a broader angle similar to OpenAI or DeepSeek. But the more we go narrower, the more available players are. And by time, I think the cost will drop rapidly. So maybe we'll see in 5 years a lot of Arabic-based LLMs focusing maybe on a higher level than what we're seeing today.
or maybe specialized in summer. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, from the announcement, they made a huge collaboration with AWS and NVIDIA. And I think it takes a lot of investments to roll out a meaningful AI. And I think that gives the platform its ability to capitalize on future rollouts. And they already announced there will be 6 rollouts in the future from this platform. So excited. I mean, I'm excited for the other industry that can utilize this platform to build meaningful solutions and innovation, particularly to the Arabic language speaking consumers.
Yeah, and I hope startups start using it, maybe in addition to the other LLMs that they're using, and I hope it will be cheaper for the local founders and local startups as well. Before we wrap up, a big thanks to OCTA for sponsoring today's episode.
If you want to get paid faster, access financing, and automate your receivable process, head to weareocta.com. That is WEAREOCTA.com and take control of your accounts receivable today.
Well, with that, thank you so much, Samer and Ahmed. This has been a really good chance for us to catch you when we talked about gaming and real estate because you both are into those markets. Thank you so much. Really appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Always a pleasure, Ahmed and Jamie.
Thanks, guys.